Are you in that spot in your life? You're going through challenges and struggles and pain. It seems like life just keeps happening to you. It seems like the whole world is just against you. And you're trying your best. You've worked so hard. You've tried everything you can. You put in so much effort, and nothing just seems to be working out. And you're at this point, you're frustrated. You don't even know what to do anymore. It's a busy world we have out there today, and there's so much stuff going on out there, and people are hurting, people are going through stuff, and that is why we are here today to help you, to hold your hands through this journey with the proverbial wisdom that we are going to share today on struggle, how to turn your struggle into strength and into a life purpose. Join me here today is Rich, and together we are going to unpack this idea and recommendations and proverbial wisdom and ancient wisdom on how you can navigate through this season of your life. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Proverbial Mind Podcast. This is your host again, Samuel Oladeji, and here with me is Rich Cheatham. Did I get that?
Rick Cheatham. Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So it's Rick Cheatham, and today we are going to be talking about from struggle to strength, turning life challenges into purpose. If you're here for the first time, do not forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification button. That way you can be notified when next we post any of our proverbial wisdom on this beautiful channel that we have created to help you with your journey of life. All right, Rich, can you give us a brief introduction about yourself and what you do and how you can help us today?
Sure. Uh, I'm a retired fire captain with the city of Anaheim in Southern California, right outside of Disneyland. Spent nearly 25 years there. Had an incredible career, just incredible. One of the greatest experiences of my life working with men and women who, when you work in the fire service, you work with some of the most courageous men and women you will ever meet in your life. They are willing to lay down their lives for them, for that of another.
Hmm.
Uh, it's uh, it's one of the most beautiful and most courageous careers one can ever endeavor to participate in. And so I was very blessed and fortunate to be a part of that for nearly a quarter of a century. Through it all, I've learned a lot about life. I've learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about my own insecurities and my own suffering. Uh, and one of the things that I learned early on, just before I became a fireman, was I was struggling. I was struggling hard. One of the biggest struggles I had was here I was a married man of 10 years, had two small boys. My wife and I met at church through an answered prayer of mine. I prayed specifically for a woman that was about 5'1", 5'2", weighed 103 to 105 pounds. She's dark complected, long black hair, gorgeous when to look at. When she walked into a room, heads would turn. And I was facilitating all of the carnal natures of my own mind of what I
Right,
wanted in the
right,
perfect woman, right?
right.
And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, she showed up. Uh,
Wow.
One of the things that intrigued me about that prayer was that and I've always reflected back on it, it wasn't necessarily the description of what I wanted from her, but it was how the prayer ended. And it kind of came out of nowhere. I kind of felt almost superficial in praying for something so carnally minded, if you will.
Mhm.
But I asked at the end, I said, but most importantly, I pray that she will help me become the man of God that you want me to be. Amen. 10 years later, that answered prayer said, I hate you, I hate God, I hate the church, I quit. So I was in the throes of possible divorce with two small boys that somebody else was going to end up raising part time along with myself. And it really put me in a position where I had to really go back and do some soul searching and find a way through that kind of adversity and that struggle. And at the same time, I was getting hired on by the fire department. And so I had this career I was juggling, a marriage that was
Hmm.
going through the crucible of life. And, you know, finding the right people and putting yourself in proximity, it really helps you navigate life. It really helps you navigate the suffering of life. And we'll get into that, I'm sure, as we go on. But now, as we fast forward through my career, things were going so well. My wife and I had, gotten back together. We created this beautiful relationship, and in that process of creating this beautiful relationship, we had our third child, and our third child was a little girl, and we named her Victoria as a representation of the victorious life you can have when you put your mind to what it is that you truly want. When you start focusing on life through the lens of what it is that you want from life and then put in the actions to get there, uh, it's almost like I hate to describe it like this, but it's almost like a genie in the bottle. You can have anything you want if you're willing to put in the work. But
Right,
most of
right,
us are just unwilling. I shouldn't say unwilling. We just don't know how.
right.
It just seems that life happens to us so often that it happens to us rather than for us. And so we become victims of life. And when you become a victim of life, you lose control, you lose clarity, you lose
Hmm.
confidence,
Hmm.
and you start to navigate almost like a rudderless ship in the ocean. When they are,
Right.
when you lose your momentum and you lose your power, you just are tossed to and fro, like the Bible describes as a ship.
Hmm.
Just whatever the winds take us, that's where we go.
Right.
And so we were building this beautiful marriage, and we were helping people overcome addiction. We were helping people overcome struggles. And, all of a sudden, out of the blue, I got the call from, I got actually, it wasn't a call. I had a knock on the door at 4 in the morning, and it was the Riverside County Sheriff's Office explaining to us that our oldest son, Michael, was murdered that night. And so that just put us in a totally different place now. Now we've had this beautiful, resurrected, redemptive relationship. And now we're facing every parent's worst nightmare, the death of a child. And the last 11 years have been me navigating through the grief and the heartbreak that comes
Right.
along with losing your loved one,
Right.
especially your child. And then, as I navigated through that, I pretty much I didn't really do the work to really dive deep into the grief. I ended up pretty much anesthetizing myself with work.
Mm.
I just entrenched entrenched myself around what I was doing at work. I poured myself into that as a way of not having to really deal with my grief. But at the same time, I was more focused on my wife and her grief because the loss that she was suffering, although it was my same loss, my wife took it extremely hard. And for that first year, I didn't even know if I was going to come home to a wife that was even wanting to live anymore. It was that bad. And so I really just created an environment and a safe space for her where she could grieve and grow through it while I did my thing at work. And, it worked well for me for a while, and then it didn't. Got to the place where I was getting more angry. I was becoming more resentful and not taking it out on my family per se, but taking it out at work on patients, on patient assessments. And, you get to a place where as a firefighter responding to 911 incidences, you see these people who call 911 for issues, and you look at them and you go, man, I don't even see the reason for you calling me right now.
Hmm.
What you're dealing with is so insignificant in my arena of what I'm
That's true.
dealing with
Experience. Yeah.
that it becomes more of a, you become resentful that they're even bothering you. And
Hmm.
that was not a good place for me to be.
Hmm.
And finally, I was offered we were offered a golden handshake, if you will, retirement during COVID. So it was 2020, COVID hits, and we're all worried about how Anaheim's going to be able to survive this this pandemic,
Mhm.
um, in the grips of Disneyland closing down, and where Disneyland and the relationship that the city of Anaheim has to Disneyland, from the fire service perspective, it's nearly 60% of our budget comes from
Mhm.
Disneyland and the revenue that we generate off the taxes as a result. So when they closed down, it really caused us to recoil and figure out a new plan. So they offered us this golden handshake, which I took. So I retired in November of 2020 and moved to Nashville, Tennessee. And 5 months later, I fell and broke my neck at C4 and 5 and was left paralyzed from the chest down. And I just thought to myself, man, why me? What have I done that deserves the loss of my son, a broken neck, probably two of the things that that everybody warned you of. Number one, your mom always told you when you were growing up, don't do that, you're going to fall and break your neck.
Right.
Don't do that, you're going to break your neck over here. I mean, it's always this. Breaking your neck was always this quote unquote,
Hmm.
it was the worst thing that anybody could ever have to
Wish for.
endure.
Yeah.
And yet here I am, 5 months into retirement. I'm broken. I got a broken neck and completely invalid. Had spent 3 months in the hospital learning how to walk again, learning how to care for myself in a way that I can be independent. And, as much as that was a great lesson, the biggest thing in that, I think, for me was my wife was able to create an environment for me so that healing was a natural byproduct. Um, and she just cared for me. She was a nurse, so she understood what I needed to heal. And between her and my department, who I just retired from, coming out and taking care of my wife and the things that we needed to do, it just really gave me a sense of love and appreciation and gratitude for what I had.
Right.
And then I got home and everybody went their separate ways. And then I was just left to reflect on my own issues. And those issues were, I was not the man I used to be. I didn't have control over my body movements the way that I used to be. I didn't even have control over sometimes my own bowel movements because of the injury.
Hmm.
My nerves were damaged at a level that didn't know if I'd ever be able to be normal again. And I started feeling sorry for myself, so I became a victim. I became a
Right.
victim of life again, and it nearly took me out, Samuel. It was like, man, I was right on the threshold of just saying, you know what, why even bother? What why why continue to grow when everything I've done in life was to grow and to develop and to
Mhm.
become, only to be sidelined with an injury like this? It was devastating. So I wanted to quit. My wife said, we've been through too much for you to give up and quit now. And if this is the way it's going to end, let's just sever this relationship now and let's just be done with it, because I can't watch you go through this. You're killing yourself. You're literally giving up on life. And that was my turning point. My wife coming to me and say, I feel like you're giving up. And we've been through too much for that to happen. So that started my journey back into personal development. It started my journey back on the track of healing my mind over
Mm.
my body and getting back into connection with who God truly is and what his purpose is and what my purpose was, and how adversity and struggle and the crucible of life is designed to bring out the best in you rather than the worst.
Right.
And now that has afforded me an opportunity to now pour back in the lives of other men suffering, whether that be through their marriage, whether that be through an addiction, whether that be through the grief or loss of a loved one, whether that be a traumatic injury that's sidelined you to the state of being as a victim, or as though your purpose is not going to be fulfilled because you're not what you once used to be. And now I get that opportunity. And so that's the story. And what I'm done with that story is I've turned it into purpose. And the purpose is now to be a light to those who are struggling in their own darkness, and help them navigate through it with a sense of clarity, confidence, and purpose.
That is a extremely powerful story. That
Thank
is
you.
extremely powerful story. And first of all, I hope you're feeling better now. I hope you're.
Well, May 1st will be
Mhm.
4 years since my injury.
Mhm.
And I was just telling you, I've got a personal trainer that helps me build my body back up.
Hmm.
And I was just explaining to him today, I said, it's been 4 years, and every day I wake up, I can easily lose the gratitude of the life that I now have because every morning I wake up and I'm stiff as a board trying to walk because my nerves still have not
Fully
fully
recovered.
recovered
Yeah.
and I'm still suffering some residuals as a result. But I told him this today. I said, but here's how I change it. When my mind starts to reflect on the past in a negative way, I remind myself, you could have been dead. You
100%.
could have lost your life. You could have been in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. You could have been an invalid. It could have been so much worse. But
Hmm.
look at you today. 4 years later, I'm actually in a gym being personally trained to take my injuries and not let that define me, but let it refine me. And that's what life is all about. It could either define or refine. You choose. It's our prerogative. So I've chosen to let it refine who I am in a way that brings about a light to the darkness of those who are struggling in their own choices of where's my life going?
Hmm.
Why is this happening to me? How come me? I didn't do anything to deserve this. And those are all
Right.
the questions that are so easily asked of ourselves. And our mind, when you ask those types of questions, your mind will find the answer for you.
Of
So
course.
if you ask questions from a victim mentality, your mind will find you reasons why you should stay a victim
No
and why
doubt.
you should suffer and why you should be in pain. And it's easy to feel like a loser when you don't keep score. And so, what that means for me is I've learned to keep score in the little victories in my life. So, the fact that I can even get out of bed is a huge victory. The fact that I could walk to the restroom is a huge victory. The fact that I could feed myself, I can clothe myself, I can care for myself. Those are big, big victories today for me. Where at once I took those for granted. And because I took it for granted, it's very hard to find a victory in that because it was so normal. But now, being on the other side of
You know,
paralysis, there is no normality that is worth uh, reflecting on in a negative way because
right.
every day is an opportunity for a better life, a better mindset, and shifting those gears into victorious victories rather than being victimized by your circumstance.
I don't even know what to say. I'm overwhelmed by the whole thing. It's amazing. It's really amazing. It reminds me of a time where I was working really, really hard. And, it was just very tough. I had to send myself to school and do a lot of things. I had to pay bills and everything. I'm
Right,
responsible for myself and all that kind of stuff. My family, parent, all of them, they are not here with me. I'm just all by myself. And
right,
it's difficult. So it means that if you don't go to work, you're not gonna eat. You end up homeless
right,
because you're just by yourself. And so I have gotten to a point whereby I had worked myself so hard that I barely even get time to sleep. And then my body began to catch up with me. And all of a sudden, one morning, because the gym is usually a place where I go back to build my mental toughness whenever I feel hit by something, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. I just go to the gym to fix my brain again. And so it feels like I had pushed myself too hard that other day in the gym after not having conducive sleep for the past 4 days. I've been sleeping weird, like 3 hours, 4 hours, and just jumping from project to project, work meetings, and all that stuff. It was very busy. And so I woke up the next morning. This is after having multiple back pain, consistently happening to me. I woke up the next morning and I was gonna move my body, Rich. It was like someone put a chisel in my rib and was smashing the crap out of it. I could,
Yikes.
yeah, I was in severe pain. I couldn't move. I'm like, holy crap. So this is the lucky I that moment it was like, God, I don't even care about the money or the job or whatever. I just need my back to function back properly. Like this sucks. I could not
Hmm.
even place a foot on the leg, on the
Yeah.
ground. Like when I try to walk, it was like, something just hit me at that back. I sat down back again. And I just lie down there for like an hour. I don't even know who to call or whatever. I just sat down there. I was looking at the roof, and I remember times whereby I could walk. I just get off the bed and pray like as if it was a normal thing. And that day actually helped me to appreciate once again the privilege it is you have to wake up in the morning and get up your feet and go ahead and say you want to start chasing another goal. Because when you are on a bed, on your deathbed, and it looks like you're never going to get out of that place, the last thing you even want to think about is money. What you're thinking about is how can I get myself off this bed and be able to even walk and do my normal daily functions. And
Right.
so I
That's right.
stayed on there for the next 1 hour, 30 minutes, and I was praying in my spirit. I was praying, I was praying, I was praying. And being resilient, I'm like, shoot, I don't care. I'm gonna walk in this back pain. I gotta pay bills, bro. What you telling me? And
Right.
so I got off the bed, and every step I took, it was like they were chiseling me in my back. It hurt so bad. I didn't know where that came from. And so I just managed to get myself in the car in severe pain, and I got to my chiropractor. I told him, dude, man, I don't know what's up with my back. And as I was walking, it was getting better. The pain reduced after I started moving for a little bit. And then he did some things to my back, and I felt a little bit relieved, but I felt that pain for at least the next 2 weeks before it finally disappeared. And I reflected back, experiencing this severe pain. I have never felt such amount of pain in my body before in my life. That was the first time.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, what an opportunity you have to wake up. A dead man has no hope no more. He's dead. It's finished. Your dreams, your goals, and everything, they are gone. Like all that goals and dream you're pushing on that is not letting you to be hopeful or to be joyful or to be peaceful with life, they're gonna go away in the face of death. You're not gonna remember any of those things. And that is why your story was a very, very huge significant. And one follow-up question I have for you is how do you battle with the mental challenges that comes with it? Because it is not easy. It's the story of a warrior. That is how I would describe your story, like a warrior. How do you fight that mental battle? Because that's where the real battle is, in your mind.
Right. Right. You know, I've learned to accept the fact that uh, 95% of our life is run on autopilot. I mean, our subconscious pretty much runs the programs of our lives. And
Right.
just the autonomic nervous system, just take that for example. I mean, you don't have to think about breathing.
Mm,
You don't have to think about your blood circulation. You don't
mm,
have to think about the different uh, chemicals that are being dispersed throughout your body that you make. You don't have to think about any of that. It's all on autopilot.
right.
And our minds can very easily, because 95% of what we do is subconscious, it can very easily just slip into uh, a routine, something that's
Yes.
safe, something that's normal, something that
Hmm.
we have experienced and we like, and we go, okay, you know what? I'm just going to chill out here. And it's not until you get hit with adversity and a challenge that you have to recalibrate what you're thinking. And so when it comes to my mindset, um, there's a passage in the Bible that says, "As a man thinks, so is
So
he."
easy. Yeah.
And Paul elaborates on that even further in the New Testament, in the book of Romans, I believe it is, and he says, "Don't conform to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of
Renew
your
your mind.
mind." So it's about renewing the mind. It's about looking at life through the lens of faith rather than the lens of fear. And let me explain that if I can. When we look through the lens of fear,
Mhm.
we become doubtful
Right.
because we've had a past experience that was fearful enough for the brain to remember it. And so when you're faced with something new, you're faced with a new challenge, you're faced with stepping out of your comfort zone, fear sets in. And fear is going to remind you of the past experiences
Mhm.
that you've had to then create a sense of stagnation. I don't want to move forward because what if it happens again?
Yes.
What if this happens? What if that happens? I mean, I lived with a lot of fear that I was going to lose another child after I lost my first one.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, man, I don't know that I could live. And here I am thinking about something that's not even real.
Right.
Just because I had an experience in the past about something that was real, now I'm equating that, well, what if I lose another one or a third one? You know, what if I lose my whole family?
Mhm.
What if? So the mind, what it thinks you become. So where you focus your energy, that's where well, let's put it where you put your attention, energy flow. So wherever I'm
Right.
focused on, I'm going to have energy around that.
Right. Law of focus.
And so if I focus on the negative, I'm going to create more negative. Well, that's living in fear. So I'm constantly thinking about the past.
Mm.
That means my near future is going to be more like my past. And so I'm going to just get stuck in this rut over and over and over again. That's called living life through the lens of fear.
Mm.
There's another option, though. You can live life through the lens of faith. And when you look at life through the lens of faith, life becomes something that you anticipate. It's something that you become. The Bible talks about faith in this step. It says something to the effect of faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So it's things that you hope for. So let's put heaven out there as a hope. You
Right.
don't have it yet, you can't see it yet, but yet it's so real that it's like it's happening right now. It's like,
Right.
okay, I know where I'm headed. I got it. So faith from the standpoint of anticipating that which you want. So the things that you focus on in the future, what kind of life do you want in the future? What kind of relationship do you want in the future? What do you want your career to be like in the future? What is it about your life in the future that if you had it, you would have the life of your dreams and life would be so much more passionate, so much more filled with purpose. What is that life like? And then as you start to focus on that life, it starts to create that with the momentum of you taking the actions necessary to facilitate, if that makes sense. So faith looks forward to the things that you can have,
Mhm.
whereas fear looks in the past for the things that you have had. And you now have to wrestle with faith and fear
Mm.
as you change your mindset around your adversities, because the adversity will take you to a dark place. It will take you to a place where you think about what's happening to you. It will take you to a place that starts to ruminate on things that are uh, fearful, scary. I don't want to experience that again. So we end up stopping ourselves from moving in a good direction because the fear keeps us tied to our past. And the Apostle Paul says, I don't look at the things that are in my rearview mirror anymore. He goes, I don't look to the things in my past. I look to the future, the things where Christ Jesus and what he's offered me can take me. Now, when I look to my future, I heaven is not even in the in the I don't even worry about that because I know where I am. I know where I'm headed.
Right.
But where we get stuck is looking at the future of this life.
Mm.
What kind of relationship do you want? What kind of relationship are you in? Have you ever even done an assessment on your relationship? Is your relationship, you know, burning underneath you right now? Is the career that you're on, the career path, are you hopeless? Do you feel like, there's nothing you're going to get out of this? You're just going through the motions, just paycheck to paycheck. What kind of relationships do you want with your kids, your family? What kind of relationships do you want with your spouse, your girlfriend? What kind of life do you really want? Do we really ever sit down and just say, this is my vision for the future? This is the life I really want. And then start taking the actions to move in that direction. That's where my mindset has shifted dramatically here in the last 4 years is I was left with the mindset that I was useless. Um, I had no more purpose. I had lost my identity as a man. And I focused on that so much that it got me to the place where I had no hope. And when you have no hope,
You're
you will
done.
never find purpose.
Yeah, you're
And
done.
so God has created us to have purpose. He's created us to have hope. And the hope is this, the hope is that it doesn't matter what's going on in your life. Every moment we have a choice. And in that choice comes an outcome. And that outcome creates the experience. And that experience then creates the emotional connection to it. And then it then creates in us the validity of that thought that I am X, I am whatever, I am worthless, I am useless, I am pitiful, I am no longer a man, I've lost my identity. And when you focus that attention there, then you become the very thing that you're focusing your attention on. And I have to reset that, recalibrate that thought and change the way that I think by changing the questions that I ask. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me? I ask, what can I learn from this experience so that I can be better tomorrow than I am today? And like I said in the beginning of this interview, your brain will answer the questions you ask it. If you ask it from a victim mindset, it will give you the answers of becoming more entrenched in being a victim. You can ask the same questions from a victorious mindset, and the brain will answer those questions to make you out to be the victor that you were intended and created to be. I believe that God has created us all with a purpose. I believe that every one of us have a purpose in life that only we can facilitate, only we can accomplish because we're so unique in that drive for that purpose. But yet life happens. And when life happens, it's easy to derail what our purpose is. And so instead of becoming purposeful, we become pitiful.
Right.
And we sit in our pity, we sit in our shame, we sit in our guilt, we sit in our failures, we sit in our adversities, so much so that everything around us
Doesn't
starts to
matter
fall
anymore.
apart. But what it does is it reflects back to who we are and it validates us. So as a man thinks, so is
So
he.
is it.
If he thinks he's worthless,
So
you're
is it.
worthless.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that you are a victim,
So
you're
you
a
are.
victim. If you
Yeah.
think that your relationship sucks, your
So it
relationship
is.
sucks. So everything that we think, we become. So I figured if we're going to become whatever we think, why not just think on the things that are good? I think the Apostle
Right.
Paul in the book of Philippians says something to that effect. He says, "Don't meditate on these things. Meditate on what's good, what's pure, what's
Yeah.
honorable, what's of
Lovely.
good report,
Right.
lovely." You meditate rather on that which is good, that which is the fruit of the Spirit. Meditate on these things: patience, kindness, love, godliness, all those things, and watch what happens to your life. Well, the only way we can do that is we have to realize that everything that we do in life is designed for us so that we
Not
can
to us.
become the man of God that we were designed to
Designed to
be.
be.
So that's how I kind of I navigate through the mindset now.
That is beautifully put, very detailed and very practical. I like that. It shows that you've been into it. You know, you speak from someone that is experienced in that level and have had right out practicality of how that operates. And That was
Well,
beautiful.
you remember what Jesus said to his disciples. You know, he said, if you had the faith of a mustard seed, you can
Hmm.
move mountains.
Right.
So just think about the faith of a mustard seed.
Hmm.
And yet, when adversities hit us, what's the first thing we lose? Is our faith.
Exactly. We
We
start
lose our faith in,
dismissing.
sometimes we lose our faith in God.
Right.
Is God really, is he judging me? Is he out to, what, or we lose our
Yeah.
faith in ourselves, or we lose our faith in our spouse, or we lose our faith in our career. We lose our faith and we become victimized by it. But if you had the faith of a mustard seed, you could create an environment where mountains can be moved, and mountains are problems, mountains are suffering, mountains are adversities, mountains
Right.
are what we go through on the day to day,
Right.
paying the bills, whatever it is. Those are mountains in our lives.
Right.
And as we become more connected with the source of who God is, and we become the essence of his being, and it starts within rather than outside of ourselves,
Right.
we can then transform our life into the life that has purpose, it has passion, it is empowering, and we move mountains with it. Most of all, we move the mountains of our own understanding, the things that, man, I can never do that. I can
Right.
never accomplish that. There's no way I could do this. And those are the mountains that we can move when we stop looking at life through the lens of fear
Hmm.
and doubt and start looking at the life through the lens of faith and anticipation. You can become whatever it is you want to become, and you can accomplish whatever it is you want to accomplish if you had the faith of a mustard seed.
Does not mean it's gonna be easy, guys. You face your
Oh, yeah.
challenges. You'll
It's,
fail
it's,
many times. You'll doubt yourself. You'll question everything. But that word faith and hope, never lose it.
can
That
you
is
imagine
it.
a little child falling and scraping his knees
Yeah.
and getting hurt and then just sitting there and saying, "Okay, I quit. I'm not going to do this anymore. This hurts. This is too painful."
Right. You're never
But yet
gonna
it takes
walk
that pain for that child to learn
out of
how to
work.
balance and walk and
Hmm.
and become what it was that he or she was meant to be.
Hmm.
But it's going to require pain, just like you said. I mean,
Right.
if you, I always equate, now that I'm actually in the gym trying to
Hmm.
get my body back into conditioning again, I equate the gym and the bodybuilding and the weights and the resistance that you have to build muscle in the same context of adversity and challenges in life are the weight room for personal development. It's the weight room to build that seed, that mustard seed faith, so that you can become what you were created to be. And we were all created to become light
Right.
in darkness. And if we can gravitate towards that light and become what it is we were meant to be, just think of those adversities as nothing more than a workout in the gym. You'll get through it. I guarantee it. I mean, I've navigated addiction. I've navigated a broken marriage. I've navigated the death of a son. I've navigated a traumatic injury leaving me paralyzed and learning to walk again. And you will overcome those. No matter what adversity it is,
Right.
you can overcome it if your mind asks the right questions.
Questions. That's very powerful, and I learned a lot myself.
Oh boy, that's a big one right there. That's a big one because you can definitely self deprecate through life and
Right.
become a miserable individual because you hate yourself, you don't forgive yourself, you don't love
Right.
yourself.
Right.
Yeah, when you learn to love yourself, you can then love your neighbor.
Exactly, 100%. If there's a takeaway feedback, if there's a takeaway to summarize everything that you'll give to the other person watching us now, what would
Right.
be the summary keys?
Say that again.
What would be your summary of an advice that you give to somebody now who is watching us, who is struggling in life and trying to navigate through it all? What would be, just to summarize everything we have talked about into keys?
To summarize it all, I would just say, um, Celebrate the little wins in your life, even when you're depressed, even when you feel like life is happening to you. There are little things that you're doing that you can still celebrate.
Right.
The mind is a powerful, powerful tool. Our mind is packed with energy. It is the computer hard brain, a hard, what do they call that? The
Hardware.
hardwire. It's our computer processor.
Mhm.
And don't let adversity take you down the mindset of being victimized by it.
Right.
Let the adversity build you. Let the adversity challenge you. Let the adversity create in you that mustard seed faith that you can overcome anything. You can achieve anything with the faith of a simple seed. Don't plant seeds of doubt. They will only create a life full of hardship, a life of challenge,
Right.
and a life that can seem oftentimes like you're a victim of society and
Right.
circumstances. And that's probably the biggest lie we are told in
Right.
our minds is that we are victimized by society
Right.
rather than being victorious in society. Become the light.
Right.
Become light in the darkness. But to become light in the darkness, you have to become light within your own darkness first.
100%.
And our
100%.
darkness that we sometimes look to is, but you don't understand. I've done this in my life. I've done that in my life. I have failed here. I have failed there.
Hmm.
And we so easily navigate towards our failures and our lack,
Hmm.
if you will, that we get caught in the cycle because as a man thinks, so is
So
he. So
easy.
we start to become the very things that we think. So
Hmm.
if you want to really hone it down to, a gold nugget is start thinking clearly and watch what happens to your mind. Watch what happens to your life. Put the focus on the things that God can give and God can create because He is creating life with you, but He will not create a life that you don't want. And whatever you're thinking on, that's what you're going to get. So create a life worthy of living and being the light in the darkness of your life first, and then take that out to your family and then to the world and become that light for the world. And you will find that when you start serving the world in their darkness, life becomes empowering.
When you start serving the world in their darkness, life becomes empowering.
That's
That
right.
is powerful quote right there, and I'm gonna hold on to that. I'm gonna hold on to that. And it's
That's a good one.
true. It's true. When you give life, there's a reward that comes from it. I've been there before. I definitely know how that feels in being able to give life to people. I haven't led so many people and be like a mentor to so many young people throughout my high school as well as being here. The joy, the amazement, the fulfillment I get from seeing someone's life being transformed as a result of my mentorship, my leadership, and my guidance through the grace and the help of God to accomplish in their life.
Yeah.
Not the pleasure of goals or dreams can replace that. It just makes it, you feel alive when you know that you're able to make an impact and transform someone's life. So I
Yeah, making that
definitely,
impact. That's exactly right. Making that
yeah,
impact. The Bible talks about taking the beam out of your eye. Well, that beam is your fears. That beam
right.
is your failures. That beam is the life that disappoints
Hmm.
you.
Hmm.
And now, with that beam in your eye, everywhere you turn, you end up seeing the same reflection because you're hitting people up the head with your beam.
Right.
And when you pull that beam out, and you start to look at life through a clear vision of who you are and the
Uh,
purpose that you were designed to be, it's easy now to navigate life by helping others take the speck out of their
mhm.
eyes so that they can see clearly as well. You don't have to let that speck turn into a log. That
Right.
speck can be easily removed when you understand the principles of faith over fear.
Right. So that's it, guys. There you have it. Your mind is a powerhouse, man. Don't mess with that thing. Just don't mess with that thing. You can create a life of a winner or a life of a loser depending on what you feed your mind. It's the law of focus. What you focus on grows. Now you're going down that road. You've tried that thing 1 million times, 1,000 times. You've been knocked down many times. You're putting so much effort and work into that project, that goal, whatever it is, and you keep getting rejected. Remember, there was a verse of the Bible that says, let's say a woman was sleeping with her child in the house, and then a neighbor comes at the night and knocks the door and asks for oil, and the woman say, go away, my child is sleeping, I can come out to you. And then that neighbor continue knocking shamelessly. Wouldn't that woman come out and give that neighbor whatever it is that they want? Or is it about the widow in the town who is looking for justice and went to go meet the judge, even though the judge has no fear of God and does not even care about the things of God? If that woman continues to disturb that judge, I think this is in the book of Luke, chapter 10 or 11 or 12 or so. If the woman continues to disturb the judge, wouldn't the judge stand up and say, fine, before this woman comes to kill me, I'm just going to give her justice? It's in the Bible. So that is telling you to be consistent.
Mm.
Life would give you whatever you want, but you have to prove to life that you worked it. You actually have what it takes to maintain it. Because there's a difference between successful and staying successful. And that's why sometimes God takes us through that journey. It sucks. It's hard. It's challenging. It breaks you to pieces sometimes. But like Rich said, never ever lose your faith. Never lose hope. And it all starts in here. If this place is defeated, that is done. Devil want to keep you small, and that's why he attacks everything that he knows can mess up your mind. Once he can get through your mind, that's it. So don't give up the mind battle. Fight that battle until you win. And once you have the word of God circling in your mind every time, victory is guaranteed for you. So, guys, that is it
Amen.
on From Struggle to Strength, transforming life challenges into purpose. I'm writing a book on the journey to America, which talks about my journey on how I get to America. And some of the things we discussed here has really, really highlighted that. Now,
Awesome.
when the book get published, I would attach the link to this video. So whenever you're looking at that link, that this video, you probably find the book there if it's published already. So I'd like you to read that too, because I believe I was guided by the Lord to share that story to encourage some people out there. And I hope that it's going to bless your journey and bless your life. Once
Mm.
again, if you're here for the first time, do not hesitate to subscribe to our channel, hit notification button, and like our videos and share it to your friends and family and whatever it is again that you want to gain from this valuable episode that we have just done. A lot of people are hurting and going through struggle. So don't keep this to yourself. Share it to someone else and let their life be transformed. If you want to share any testimony, contact us over anything. You can reach us to us as proverbialminds@gmail.com. And you can listen to us on Apple Podcast as well as follow us on Instagram. Until the next one, guys, stay blessed and peace out.